The hollow victory. The Galactic Combat Consortium's fortress hung in the void between three dying stars, a testament to the arrogance of species that had forgotten what it meant to struggle. Its crystalline spires caught the light of distant supernovae, casting rainbow shadows across the assembled fleet of diplomatic vessels that had gathered for the day's spectacle. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck, her reflection barely visible in the transparent aluminum barrier that separated her from the endless black. Unlike the other cadets who clustered in species-specific groups, she stood alone, her human form dwarfed by the various alien anatomies that filled the massive chamber. At 5'8", she was considered tall for a human female, but here, she might as well have been a child among giants. The mammalian biped stands in isolation, observed Prelate Zahn, his four eyes tracking her movements with the precision of a targeting computer. His species, the Korvathi, had evolved as pack hunters on a world where gravity was twice Earth's standard. As expected, the humans have no business here. His companion, a serpentine Iskari, whose scales shifted between metallic hues, coiled tighter in what passed for laughter among their kind. The Council's decision to admit Earth was purely political. Their technology is barely transluminal, their biology fragile, and their military primitive. Maya heard every word. Enhanced hearing was just one of many modifications that Earth's special forces had developed in the decades since first contact. She didn't react, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge their presence. Instead, she focused on the holographic display materializing in the center of the chamber. Admiral Voss materialized in towering blue light, their crystalline form representative of the Xanathi, the consortium's founding species. Distinguished guests, faculty, and candidates, the Admiral's voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that the Universal Translator struggled to parse. Today marks the 500th cycle of the Triad Challenge. A ripple of excitement passed through the assembled beings. Maya noticed how the betting displays along the walls suddenly came alive with activity, odds and wagers flickering in a dozen different numerical systems. As tradition dictates, Admiral Voss continued, any species seeking advanced placement within the consortium's military hierarchy must prove their worth against the three apex predators. The hologram shifted, revealing images of creatures that had haunted the nightmares of countless civilizations. These beings represent the pinnacle of natural selection, the ultimate expression of predatory evolution. Maya felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find Ambassador Chen, Earth's sole representative on the station. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but his eyes held a question. I'm ready, she said quietly. The odds are 10,000 to 1 against you, Chen murmured. The consortium expects this to be a lesson in humility for humanity. Then they're in for a surprise. The Admiral's presentation continued, detailing the three predators selected for this cycle's challenge. The Veloxian Shadow Beast, a creature that existed partially in subspace, making it nearly impossible to track. The Cerebrax Mind Render, whose telepathic abilities had driven entire colonies to madness. And finally, the Temporal Wraith, a being that could manipulate localized time fields, effectively existing in multiple moments simultaneously. The human candidate, Admiral Voss announced, and suddenly every optical organ, sensor cluster, and photoreceptor in the chamber focused on Maya. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, representing Earth. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, somewhere in the back, someone laughed. The sound spread like a virus through the crowd, a mixture of clicks, whistles, and harmonics that all translated to the same thing: derision. Maya walked forward, her dress uniform immaculate, her bearing military perfect. She'd trained for this moment for 3 years, ever since Earth's military had learned about the Triad Challenge through carefully cultivated intelligence networks. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for something like this long before first contact. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the Admiral addressed her directly. Do you understand the nature of this challenge? I do, Admiral, and you proceed voluntarily, understanding that the consortium bears no responsibility for any unfortunate outcomes. I understand and accept. More laughter from the crowd. The betting displays showed the odds climbing higher. 15,000 to 1, 20,000, 50,000. The Askari were taking bets on how many seconds she'd last. The Korvathi were wagering on which predator would end her run. Then we shall begin at the next cycle. Candidates, prepare yourselves. As the assembly dispersed, Maya caught fragments of conversation. Waste of resources. Humans always overestimate be over in seconds. She made her way to the preparation chambers, passing groups of aliens who fell silent at her approach. In the reflection of a polished wall panel, she caught a glimpse of herself. Military bearing, close-cropped black hair, brown eyes that revealed nothing. What they couldn't see were the years of preparation, the genetic modifications, the neural conditioning. Earth had learned much in its brief time among the stars. Humanity's greatest advantage wasn't technology or strength, it was adaptation. While other species had evolved to perfection in their narrow niches, humans had survived by becoming the ultimate generalists. The preparation chamber was Spartan, designed to accommodate dozens of different physiologies. Maya began her routine, checking equipment that appeared standard, but contained subtle modifications. Her uniform's fabric was interwoven with carbon nanotubes that could rigidify on command. Her boots contained miniaturized gravity manipulators. Her neural implant could process information at near-quantum speeds, but her greatest weapons were invisible. The accumulated knowledge of human persistence hunting, the psychological warfare techniques refined over millennia of conflict, and the simple fact that every other species in the galaxy had forgotten what it meant to be prey. A chime indicated 1 hour until the challenge. Maya closed her eyes and began the meditation techniques passed down from ancient warriors. She slowed her heartbeat, optimized her oxygen usage, and entered the state her trainers called the empty mind. Outside, the betting frenzy reached its peak. The odds against the human had climbed to 100,000 to 1. Several species were wagering on her not even surviving the first encounter. But in the xenobiology department, Dr. Kesh, a Thoralian scientist, studied humanity's profile with growing unease. The data didn't match the assumptions. Humans came from a death world where they'd faced predators far more cunning than pure hunters. They'd survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and most telling of all, each other. Computer, Dr. Kesh vocalized, run comparative analysis of human military history against known apex predator combat patterns. The results made his secondary hearts skip a beat. Humans didn't just fight predators, they became them. Persistence hunting, pack tactics, tool use, environmental manipulation, all characteristics that the galaxy's apex predators had never needed to develop. As the hour drew to a close, Maya stood before the arena entrance. The massive door began to cycle open, revealing the combat space beyond. A holographic environment that could simulate any terrain, any condition. Today it was set to neutral, a flat expanse under artificial stars. Lieutenant Rodriguez, a voice crackled over the comm. First predator is being released, the Veloxian Shadow Beast. Engagement window is 15 minutes. Victory conditions are neutralization or survival until timer expires. Maya stepped into the arena, and the door sealed behind her. The crowd's noise dimmed to a whisper through the environmental barriers. She stood alone in the vast space, a single human against the galaxy's deadliest killers. The lights dimmed. Somewhere in the shadows, something moved. Maya smiled. The hunt was about to begin, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt truly alive. What the aliens failed to understand was simple. Humans hadn't become Earth's apex predator by being the strongest or the fastest. They'd done it by being the smartest. The hunter's gambit. The arena's environmental systems hummed with barely perceptible vibration as Maya centered herself in the open space. The neutral gray floor extended in all directions, broken only by scattered geometric shapes that served as obstacles or cover, depending on perspective. Above, holographic stars provided minimal illumination, casting long shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. In the observation deck, hundreds of alien spectators pressed against the barriers, their varied sensory organs trained on the lone human figure. The betting displays had gone wild. Odds against Maya's survival now exceeded 200,000 to 1. "The Veloxian emerges," announced the commentator, a six-armed prelian whose species had evolved to process multiple visual streams simultaneously. "Note the characteristic phase shifting as it enters our dimensional space." Maya tracked the distortion with her peripheral vision. The shadow beast lived up to its name, a creature roughly the size of a terrestrial lion, but composed of what appeared to be living darkness. Its form constantly shifted between solid and incorporeal states, making it nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. "The human hasn't moved," observed Prelate Zahn. "Fear paralysis, perhaps." But Dr. Kesh, watching from the xenobiology section, noticed something different. The human's stance had shifted almost imperceptibly. Her breathing had slowed. Her eyes weren't darting frantically. They were methodically scanning the environment. "She's not frozen," Kesh murmured. "She's hunting." The shadow beast materialized fully, its obsidian form rippling with subdimensional energy. 6 eyes opened along its elongated skull, each one capable of seeing across different spectrums. Claws that could phase through armor extended from paws that didn't quite touch the ground. Maya took a single step backward. The crowd erupted in jeers. "Running already!" someone shouted. The betting displays flickered as odds of immediate flight were recalculated, but Maya wasn't running. She was drawing the creature in, using humanity's oldest hunting technique: persistence predation. On Earth, ancient humans had hunted by simply outlasting their prey, walking them to exhaustion under the African sun. But this wasn't about physical endurance, it was about psychological warfare. The shadow beast stalked forward, confused by prey that moved so slowly. In its evolution, prey either fought or fled at maximum speed. This measured retreat was wrong. Maya continued her backward pace, maintaining exact distance from the predator. Her neural implant calculated trajectories, analyzing the beast's gait, its phase patterns, the timing of its dimensional shifts. Every piece of data fed into a growing predictive model. "What is she doing?" Admiral Voss demanded. The Xenathi's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "Why doesn't she engage?" "Because she's not playing by your rules," Ambassador Chen said, quietly, having arrived at the observation deck. "She's playing by ours." The shadow beast's confusion grew. Its species had evolved to quick, decisive kills. Extended hunts depleted its phase-shifting energy reserves. But this prey wouldn't trigger its attack reflexes. Too slow to chase, too deliberate to seem vulnerable. Maya reached one of the geometric obstacles, a towering pyramid of some exotic alloy. She circled it slowly, keeping the structure between her and the predator. The shadow beast followed, its movements becoming increasingly agitated. Then Maya did something unexpected. She sat down. The arena fell silent. Even the perpetual hum of the station system seemed to pause. The shadow beast froze, its 6 eyes blinking in sequence. In its evolutionary memory, no prey had ever simply stopped. Its predatory algorithms crashed against this impossibility. "She's insane," someone whispered. "She's brilliant," Dr. Kesh countered. His analysis confirmed as the shadow beast's energy signatures began fluctuating wildly. The creature's hunting instincts require specific triggers. By refusing to provide them, she's forcing it to burn. Energy maintaining combat readiness. Maya remained perfectly still, her eyes closed, her breathing even. To the observers, she appeared to be meditating. In reality, her neural implant was running at full capacity, analyzing micro-vibrations in the floor, air pressure changes, electromagnetic fluctuations, building a perfect sensory map of the arena. The shadow beast circled closer, phasing in and out of visibility. Its confusion had transformed into something worse: doubt. For the first time in its species' existence, a predator questioned its own supremacy. 5 minutes passed. 10. The betting displays showed frantic recalculations as Maya's survival time exceeded all predictions. Then, without warning, she moved. The motion was fluid, economical, a perfect fusion of military training and enhanced reflexes. She rolled sideways just as the shadow beast struck, its claws passing through the space she'd occupied microseconds before. But Maya wasn't dodging blind. Her neural map had predicted the attack vector perfectly. As the beast's momentum carried it forward, she came up behind it, her hand reaching for something at her belt. The crowd gasped as she produced what appeared to be a simple metal rod. No energy signature, no exotic materials, just a length of conductive alloy. Is that a stick? Prelate Zahn's voice dripped with disbelief. The shadow beast whirled, its form rippling between states. It launched itself at Maya with supernatural speed, a blur of darkness and claws. Maya didn't try to match its speed. Instead, she stepped into the attack, using the creature's momentum against it. The metal rod extended, telescoping to twice its length, and she drove it forward at a precise angle. The rod passed through the beast's phased form harmlessly until Maya triggered the electromagnetic pulse generator hidden in its core. The effect was instantaneous. The shadow beast's phase-shifting ability relied on manipulating localized electromagnetic fields. The pulse didn't damage it directly. It simply scrambled its ability to control its own molecular state. Suddenly solid, suddenly vulnerable, the shadow beast materialized fully for the first time in the arena. Its 6 eyes widened in shock as Maya's rod found its target. A nerve cluster just behind its primary skull plate, a weakness no amount of phase shifting could protect. The creature collapsed, paralyzed, but alive. Victory conditions met. The arena fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then chaos erupted. Impossible! Voices screamed in a dozen languages. The human cheated. Others protested. How did she know? The nerve cluster location is classified. But in the xenobiology section, Dr. Kesh was pulling up human military records, his respect for the species growing with each revelation. Humans had spent their entire history fighting enemies they couldn't match in straight combat. They'd learned to study, to adapt, to find weaknesses where none seemed to exist. The Veloxian's biology, he told his colleagues, is remarkably similar to Earth's electric eels. The phase-shifting mechanism operates on comparable principles. She didn't need our classified data. She deduced it from her own planet's wildlife. In the arena, Maya stood over the paralyzed predator, her expression unchanged. She looked up at the observation deck, her gaze finding the judges' panel. First predator neutralized, she stated calmly, requesting arena reset for second engagement. The betting displays went dark, their algorithms unable to process what had just occurred. The odds had to be recalculated from scratch. But more disturbing than the upset victory was what the high-speed cameras had captured in the final moment. As Maya had driven the rod home, as the shadow beast realized its defeat, her expression had remained perfectly neutral. No fear, no triumph, no effort. She'd ended the galaxy's most feared hunter with the same emotion one might display while filing paperwork. What are these creatures? Admiral Voss asked, their harmonics resonating with something that might have been fear. They're humans, Ambassador Chen replied. And you've just discovered why we're classified as persistence predators on our own world. We don't stop. We don't quit. We just keep coming until our prey makes a mistake. The shadow beast didn't make a mistake, someone protested. Chen smiled coldly. Yes, it did. It assumed it was the hunter. The medical team entered the arena to remove the paralyzed predator. Maya waited patiently, using the time to perform light stretches. Her heart rate, displayed on the medical monitors, never exceeded, resting normal. In the observation deck, frantic discussions erupted among the faculty. The second predator would have to be released as scheduled. The rules were ancient and inviolable. But already some were beginning to question the wisdom of proceeding. They'd sent an apex predator against a human. The human had turned it into prey. As the arena reset for the second challenge, Maya's comm unit crackled to life. Ambassador Chen's voice for her ears only. Outstanding work, Lieutenant. Earth is watching. Tell them I'm just getting started, Maya replied, her voice carrying absolute certainty. The lights dimmed again. Somewhere in the containment areas, the Cerebrac's mind render stirred, its telepathic tendrils already reaching out to taste the thoughts of its next victim. But Maya's mind was empty, a void where thoughts should be. Another human trick, another evolved defense against a hostile universe. The hunt would continue, and the galaxy would learn why humans had never needed claws or fangs to become their world's dominant species. They'd had something far more dangerous: imagination, mind over matter. The arena floor shimmered as nanobots reconstructed the environment, transforming the geometric obstacles into something more organic. Crystalline trees sprouted from the ground, their branches interweaving to create a maze of reflective surfaces. The lighting shifted to an eerie bioluminescent green, casting everything in an underwater ambiance. Maya stood at the center, her breathing regulated to perfect rhythm. The first encounter had been a test of physical adaptation. This one would probe a different vulnerability: the human mind. In the observation deck, the atmosphere had shifted from mockery to tense anticipation. The betting algorithms had crashed, 3 times trying to recalculate odds. Some species had withdrawn from wagering entirely, unwilling to stake resources on patterns they couldn't predict. The Cerebrac's mind render, the commentator announced, their voice noticeably less confident. Telepathic classification, Omega-7, capable of inducing hallucinations, extracting memories, and in extreme cases, complete neural shutdown. Dr. Kesh pulled up the creature's profile. Unlike the shadow beast's physical prowess, the Cerebrax hunted through pure mental domination. Its victims often killed themselves to escape the psychic onslaught, their minds twisted into incomprehensible nightmares. Humans have no telepathic defenses, Prelate Zahn stated with renewed confidence. Their brains are unshielded, primitive. This will be over quickly. But Ambassador Chen's expression remained serene. You're about to learn something interesting. About human neural architecture. The containment door opened with a hydraulic hiss. What emerged defied conventional description, a mass of translucent tissue that seemed to exist partially in thought itself. The Cerebrax had no fixed form, its body a collection of neural fibers that pulsed with synaptic activity. Where it touched the ground, the surface rippled as if reality itself recoiled. Maya watched its approach with clinical detachment. Her neural implant fed her data: electromagnetic signatures, psionic wavelengths, probability matrices. But beneath the technology was something older, more fundamental: the meditative techniques humanity had developed over millennia. The Cerebrax extended a tendril of pure thought, expecting to pierce the human's consciousness like a needle through fabric. Instead, it encountered nothing. Not empty space, not a void, simply nothing, a state of non-existence where thought should be. The creature recoiled, its form rippling with confusion. In its eons of existence, it had never encountered a mind it couldn't touch. Even the most telepathically resistant species presented some form of mental landscape to invade. Maya remained motionless, her eyes unfocused, her consciousness existing in what Zen masters called no mind, a state where the self dissolved into pure awareness without thought. "What's happening?" Admiral Voss demanded. "Why isn't it attacking?" "It is attacking," Dr. Kesh replied, his instruments detecting massive psionic expenditure. "The human is somehow deflecting it." The Cerebrax intensified its assault, pouring more energy into the attack. Its form began to solidify, taking on characteristics of Maya's deepest fears, or rather what it assumed her fears should be: death, isolation, failure. But Maya's expression remained unchanged. The images passed through her consciousness like wind through empty space, finding nothing to grasp. In desperation, the Cerebrax tried a different approach. It projected pleasant images: success, acceptance, the approval of the watching crowd. Psychological manipulation through positive reinforcement rather than fear. Maya blinked once, slowly. "Interesting," she said aloud, her voice carrying through the arena. You're trying to establish a baseline emotional response to build from. Creative. The crowd stirred. She was analyzing the attack while experiencing it. The problem, Maya continued conversationally, is that you're working from incorrect assumptions about human consciousness. You see the mind as a single entity to be invaded. We see it as a collection of processes that can be selectively shut down. The cerebrax pulsed with frustration, its form becoming increasingly unstable. It had never encountered prey that discussed its hunting techniques while being hunted. Human military training includes something called resistance, evasion, survival, and escape. Seer School, Maya explained, still maintaining her meditative state. Part of that training involves resisting interrogation, but the techniques work just as well against telepathic intrusion. She took a step forward. The cerebrax retreated, a predator backing away from prey. The key is compartmentalization. When you attack one part of my mind, I simply relocate my consciousness to another. It's like trying to catch water with a net. The betting displays flickered frantically. Several species were demanding the match be declared invalid, claiming the human possessed hidden telepathic abilities. But the biomonitors showed the truth. Maya's brain patterns remained steadfastly non-telepathic. She was defeating the cerebrax with pure mental discipline. Of course, Maya continued, now walking steadily toward the creature. There's another factor you haven't considered. Human brains evolved with a unique feature, the ability to hold contradictory thoughts simultaneously. We call it cognitive dissonance. She smiled, the expression somehow more terrifying than any snarl. Would you like to experience it? The cerebrax's form flickered, uncertain. It had never been threatened by prey before. Maya closed her eyes and, for the first time, lowered her mental barriers. But instead of revealing a mind to be invaded, she projected something else. The full chaos of human consciousness. Every contradictory belief, every parallel thought process, every suppressed emotion and conflicting desire that humans carried within their psyche. The cerebrax touched this maelstrom and recoiled in agony. Its species had evolved to deal with unified consciousness, thoughts that flowed in predictable patterns. Human minds were different, chaotic, contradictory, capable of believing multiple incompatible truths simultaneously. We're not telepathic, Maya explained, advancing steadily. But we are empathetic. We've spent our evolution learning to understand other minds through observation, through pattern recognition, through sheer stubborn determination. And in doing so, we've learned to make our own minds complex. The cerebrax retreated to the far end of the arena, its form fluctuating wildly. It tried one last desperate attack, pouring all its psychic energy into a single overwhelming assault. Maya stood her ground, her mind fracturing the attack into 1,000 harmless components. Each thought weapon was analyzed, categorized, and discarded with mechanical precision. Your species evolved telepathy because it was efficient, she said. Ours evolved without it, so we developed other tools: pattern recognition, prediction, empathy. We learned to read minds the hard way, through faces, through body language, through understanding, and that made us stronger. The cerebrax collapsed, its neural energy depleted. It lay quivering on the arena floor, unable to comprehend how a non-telepathic species had turned its greatest weapon into a liability. Maya stood over it, her expression softening slightly. "You're not evil," she said quietly. "Just limited. Your evolution gave you a shortcut to understanding other minds, so you never developed the tools to understand your own." She reached down and touched the creature's translucent form. Instead of recoiling, she projected a single clear thought. Not an attack, but a gift. The image of Earth's sunset, simple and beautiful. The cerebrax went still, its form stabilizing, for the first time. In its eons of existence, no prey had ever shown it kindness after defeating it. "Second predator neutralized," Maya announced, stepping back. "Non-lethal submission achieved." The observation deck erupted in chaos. This was worse than the first victory. The human hadn't just defeated the mind render, she'd shown it mercy. In the brutal calculus of galactic politics, Mercy was often seen as weakness. But watching Maya's calm demeanor, nobody could mistake her restraint for inability. How? Admiral Voss's harmonics were discordant with disbelief. The Cerebrax has never been defeated by a non-telepathic species. That's because, Ambassador Chen replied, you've been measuring the wrong thing. Telepathy is communication through thought. Humans developed something more powerful, communication through understanding. Dr. Kesh was frantically analyzing the encounter data. Remarkable. The human's neural patterns didn't just resist the psychic attack, they adapted to it. Her brain literally rewired itself in real time to counter each new assault. In the arena, Maya performed another series of stretches, preparing for the final challenge. The medical monitors showed her vitals returning to baseline rest, as if the mental battle had been no more strenuous than a light workout. The temporal wraith, someone whispered. She'll face the temporal wraith next. The observation deck fell silent. If the first two predators had been dangerous, the wraith was considered unbeatable. A creature that existed partially outside the normal flow of time, able to attack from past and future simultaneously. But Maya's expression remained serene. She'd spent 3 years preparing for this moment, studying not just the predator's capabilities, but the underlying assumptions of galactic combat doctrine. Every species in the consortium had evolved their combat techniques around their unique advantages. They'd never faced an opponent who could adapt to all of them. Humans had no natural weapons, no telepathy, no time manipulation. What they had was something more dangerous, the ability to turn any disadvantage into an asset. The arena began to reset for the final challenge. The crystalline trees dissolved, replaced by a stark white void, an environment designed to provide no reference points for temporal navigation. Maya stood in the center, her shadow the only mark on the pristine surface. Above, the countdown began for the release of the final predator. In the observation deck, the betting had stopped entirely. The algorithms had given up trying to calculate odds for something that no longer followed any known pattern. 3 apex predators. 2 already fallen. 1 remaining, and a human who had turned the entire concept of predation on its head. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as Maya Rodriguez prepared to face the impossible. Again. Time's illusion. The arena transformed into a stark white expanse that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. No shadows, no reference points. A blank canvas where time itself could be painted and repainted at will. Maya stood at the center, her dark uniform a single point of definition in the formless. Void the temporal wraith. The commentator's voice had lost all its earlier bravado. Classification. Paradox Alpha. The only known predator that hunts across multiple time streams simultaneously. In the observation deck, even the most belligerent species had fallen silent. The temporal wraith wasn't just dangerous, it was conceptually impossible to defeat. How could you fight something that could attack you before you decided to defend? Dr. Kesh's instruments registered temporal fluctuations beginning throughout the arena. Fascinating, he murmured. The wraith doesn't just manipulate time, it exists in multiple temporal states simultaneously. It's already present in the past, present, and immediate future of the arena space. Then the human is already dead. Prelate Zahn stated with grim satisfaction. She just doesn't know it yet. Ambassador Chen remained silent, his eyes fixed on Maya's still form. The lieutenant hadn't moved since taking her position, her breathing so regular it could have been used to calibrate atomic clocks. The containment systems disengaged with a sound like reality tearing. What emerged defied perception. The temporal wraith appeared as a constantly shifting amalgamation of what was, what is, and what might be. Its form rippled between states, sometimes solid, sometimes gaseous, occasionally appearing as multiple overlapping versions of itself. Maya opened her eyes slowly. "There you are," she said, her voice carrying an odd resonance. The wraith paused. Prey didn't usually acknowledge it before it chose to be seen. "I've been thinking about time," Maya continued conversationally. Your species perceives it as a dimension to be navigated. Most species see it as a river flowing in one direction. But humans, she smiled. We've always had a complicated relationship with time. The Wraith began its approach, or rather its multiple approaches. To the observers, it appeared to split into three versions, one attacking from the past, one from the present, one from a future moment. The tactical advantage was overwhelming. No matter which Maya blocked, the others would strike unopposed, but Maya did something unexpected. She closed her eyes again. "You're making a fundamental error," she said, her voice calm despite the approaching threat. "You assume I experience time the way you do." The triple attack converged and passed through empty air. Maya had sidestepped at the exact moment all three temporal versions intersected, finding the one point in space-time where the Wraith couldn't exist. The arena systems struggled to track what happened next. Maya wasn't moving faster than the Wraith. She was moving differently. Where the creature flowed through time like water, she moved in discrete jumps, each one perfectly timed to avoid its temporal presence. "Human perception of time is unique," Maya explained, dodging attacks that hadn't happened yet. "We experience it as both continuous and discrete. Our brains construct reality from moment to moment, filling in the gaps with prediction and memory." She reached for her belt and produced another device, this one a small sphere that seemed to bend light around it. "But here's the interesting part," she continued, activating the device. "Under stress, human time perception changes. Adrenaline doesn't speed up our reflexes. It slows down our subjective experience of time." The sphere pulsed, and suddenly the arena was filled with Mayas, dozens of them, each moving through different moments. But these weren't temporal, echoes like the Wraiths. They were probability ghosts, potential futures that human intuition could glimpse in combat situations. "You manipulate objective time," Maya said, her voice coming from multiple versions simultaneously. "We manipulate subjective time, and in combat, perception is reality." The Wraith faltered, its perfect temporal coordination disrupted. It had evolved to hunt creatures that experienced time as a constant. Humans experience